Hello and welcome to New Frontiers on CCTV International. I'm Ji Xiangjun in Beijing. In our program today, we are continuing our major series about the Wudang Mountains. Located in the northwestern part of Hubei Province, the Wudang Mountains are closely associated with Taoism. A key element in the Taoist belief system is the worship of mountains. So, not surprisingly, Taoist masters often spend long periods of their lives living on mountains. They go there to cultivate themselves through meditation and practicing Kung Fu. A very obvious mark of the Taoist presence in the Wudang Mountains is the large number of temples. In fact, no fewer than 500 Taoist temples were built there from the Tang to the Qing dynasties. Among them is Nanyan Palace, which is often described as a wonder of Chinese architecture.
The desolate Mount Wudang had become known to the outside world for its clear, pure water, but it was about to emit an even brighter light, the rays of which would reach out through the centuries. Our story begins in the early years of the Yuan Dynasty 700 years ago, when a government official resigned from his post and went to Mount Wudang to live in seclusion. The man's name was Zhang Shouqing, and on Mount Wudang he would spend 27 years building a magnificent palatial hall on a sheer cliff. Eventually, the emperor of the Yuan dynasty would turn it into a royal venue for ceremonies, soliciting heaven for a longer life. And all of this was but a prelude to Wudang Mountains' days of glory. Nanyan, or South Crag, is located on a mountain fault line, and it is the most beautiful peak of Wudang Mountains, 36 peaks. On top of the peak stands Nanyan Palace. Although historical records only give the approximate year of its construction, we do at least know something about the man who built this heavenly hall on top of Nanyan. But for a long time, the matter was shrouded in mystery. Many people expended much time and energy trying to unravel the mystery. Fan Xuefeng, director of the compilation office of the Annals of Wudang, was one of them. Historical records tell us that the builder was Zhang Shouqing, a Taoist living in the Yuan dynasty. But what kind of person was he? Why did he come to Wudang Mountain? And why did he build Nanyan Palace?
元仁宗封庄守清为天玄妙音太和真人那个在河头啊，在河头啊，是不是那个躺在那个表大那个碑？是的，多大一个啊？碑比较大的，但是那个字体还比较清晰。行，等会我们一起去看一下。行了。
The stone inscription Fan Xuefeng is looking for was bestowed on Nanyan Palace by Emperor Renzong of the Yuan dynasty, when the emperor conferred on Zhang Shouqing the title True Man of Miaoying Taihe, which roughly means heavenly inspired supreme harmony. Zhang Shouqing was the first Taoist monk on Wudang Mountain to receive such an honor from an emperor. When construction of Nanyan Palace was completed, the emperor's dowager named it Wanshou Palace, and she turned it into an exclusive venue for the emperor to hold services to pray for happiness and longevity. The hall has stood on Nanyan Crag for more than 700 years. To the south of the hall is Heavenly Pillar Peak, close by to its north is Purple Sky Peak, to its east is Wuyaling Ridge, and to its west is Feishen Terrace. When Nanyan Palace received its imperial title from the Empress Dowager in the year 1313, Zhang Shouqing was already 59 years old. He'd begun building Nanyan Palace when he was just 32. It had taken him 27 years to complete.
南岩这个地方修殿是非常困难的。我们现在看的，它靠的南边是悬崖峭壁，非常难建。所以呢，这个宋朝就有人想在那个地方修宫，但是没有完成。
An important story in Taoism told of the chief god of Wudang Mountain ascending to heaven from Nanyan Crag. Building a hall on the sacred peak had become a dream of the Taoists living on the mountain. Toward the end of the Song Dynasty and at the beginning of the Yuan Dynasty some 700 years ago, a Taoist monk named Lu Dongyuan had made his way up to Nanyan Crag. Lu Dongyuan had begun practicing Taoism on Wudang Mountain when he was just a little boy, and in the 4 decades that had passed since then, he'd become well versed in Taoist medicine and prophecy. Many Taoists hoped he would build a hall for services on Nanyan Crag, but he did not. He was waiting for someone else to fulfill the task. During this period, the Song dynasty was faced with invading hordes of Mongols from the north, and it was fighting a war for its very survival. The Taoists on Mount Wudang were awaiting the final outcome of the war.
"在京西高梁河呢，冬天12月份，我们现在说腊月了，出现了这个龟蛇。冬天龟蛇为什么会出现？然后呢，就一个太监呢就报告给了忽必烈和他的皇后。那么后来忽必烈就在朝廷当中问汉族的大臣，说这个龟蛇出现象征着什么？
This is the oldest portrait of Xuanwu the Great, the chief guardian of Wudang Mountain, in the form of a turtle and a snake combined. In the Song dynasty portrait of Xuanwu, he has the demeanor of a Gentile imperial court minister. But in the Yuan dynasty portrait, he has a much more imposing air. The two very different images of the same god speak of the different mindsets of the rulers of the Song dynasty and the Yuan dynasty. Kublai Khan knew very well he could not govern the country through military force alone. He wanted to have Taoism on his side.
汉族大臣就告诉他呢，就是说我们元朝是兴起于北方，北方之气将亡，所以呢，北方的龟蛇就显灵了，这是一个预兆，预示着我们元朝很快会打败南宋，取得全国的统一。忽必烈对这种解释非常高兴，所以就在北京的高梁河附近呢，修了一个真武祠、真武庙。这修建了以后，就意味着元朝皇帝认可了真武神是元朝保护神的这种说法。
For Lu Dongyuan and the other Taoists on Wudang Mountain, the Yuan Emperor's recognition of the Taoist god Xuanwu the Great was a source of hope, and so they set about cleaning up and repairing the neglected Taoist temples. The fact was, they were waiting for someone. But where was this man?
Nanyan was somewhere Taoists had long dreamed of building a palace. It was there, so they believed, that the god Xuanwu attained immortality. The emperor's recognition of Xuanwu raised the possibility of finally building such a palace.
哦，那两边浪啊浪到中啊见那西啊，两边浪浪看花大都结，那中间西啊西都没呀毛啊西哦， 花大街嘞还没呀毛啊起啊，找不到啊那个妻子是郎啊。
It was spring, in the first year after the founding of the Yuan dynasty by the Mongols. The farmers at the foot of Mount Wudang were busy ploughing their fields in preparation for a bountiful harvest in autumn. Among the farmers planting their seeds in the fields was Zhang Shouqing. Zhang's small village in present Yidu County in Hubei Province was more than 500 kilometers away from Mount Wudang. In his childhood, Zhang had fallen in love with the Confucian classics, and so when he was old enough, he had become a minor government official. His position was enough to make him the envy of his neighbors, as at least his family did not have to worry about food and clothing. But when he reached the age of 30, Zhang suddenly resigned from his official post and went to Mount Wudang and became a Taoist. References to Zhang Shouqing in history books amount to just a few words, and they tell us nothing about why he decided to become a Taoist. But it was a decision that caused Taoism on Mount Wudang to flourish more than ever before. Zhang Shouqing made his way to Wudang Mountain as the leaves on the ginkgo trees were turning yellow. Upon arriving, he went directly to Lu Dongyun and begged him to be his teacher. Lu Dongyun readily accepted him, saying, "I've been waiting for you for a long time." The old Taoist told his new student of his plan to build Nanyan Palace, and Zhang promised he would carry out the project. The following year, Taoist Lu Dongyun died, but he died content in the knowledge that someone would fulfill his long-cherished wish. After Zhang Shouqing buried his teacher, he went up to Nanyan Crag to see for himself what would be involved in building the hall. At the time, he could not have foreseen that he would spend the rest of his life fulfilling the promise he had made to his mentor.